We work with B2B companies every single day at Rapid Product Growth, SaaS founders, consulting firm partners, agency owners. And every time we start working with a new client, one of the first things we hear is we sell to mid-market and enterprise, and that's why we've got to drive traffic from LinkedIn. And I get it. It sounds logical, but it's just not true anymore because the landscape has changed, and that's costing you a fortune. At Rapid Product Growth, Meta is actually one of our first paid channels for B2B clients, not LinkedIn. And we start there because the cost to acquire customers is just much lower. And what we found over the last several years is that the majority of B2B companies, actually Meta is outperforming LinkedIn on the metrics that actually matter. So in this video, I'm going to show you why, and I'll walk you through the framework we use, the campaign structure, and I'll give you a way to create content if you're not producing anything right now. So if we haven't met yet, I'm Jean-Michel. I'm the founder of Rapid Product Growth. I've spent 20 years in tech. I've been a CMO, a CPO. I've led $250 million tech commercialization programs and global rollouts. I've got a science background, an MS in Semiconductor Physics, if you want to get really specific. And I took all of that and I built the Rapid Product Growth system. And that's what's helping B2B companies cut their acquisition costs and add over $1 million in new revenue per year per client with outbound and meta advertising. So when I tell you that there's a better way to fill your pipeline than what LinkedIn is currently offering you, I'm not guessing. This is what we do every day. Let me give you some numbers that changed how we think about platform selection for our clients. So according to the last report by Data Reportal that uses similar web's app intelligence to actually measure the time in the app, not self-reported surveys, the average Facebook user spends about 67 minutes per day on the platform. Instagram users spend 73 minutes today. And across the two Meta platforms, you're looking at 2 hours per day per user. And that's measured usage, not what they say they do. Now compare that to LinkedIn. If we look at the data there, the average session lasts 7 to 8 minutes. And the average LinkedIn mobile user spends 51 minutes per month. So we're talking about 2 hours per day on Meta versus 51 minutes per month on LinkedIn. That's an 80-to-1 ratio of attention time. And since Meta has billions of people on it, you will be able to catch your ICP, even if they're rare on the Meta platform. Now, your buyers absolutely have LinkedIn profiles. They log in, they scroll for a few minutes, maybe they accept a connection request, they, click spam on all of the DMs that are going in there, and then they open Instagram where they're waiting for coffee. They scroll Facebook while they're on the couch at night when the kids go to bed. Now, I know what you're thinking. My buyers aren't scrolling Instagram and looking for enterprise software or boutique consulting service, and you're right, they're not. But they're not on LinkedIn scrolling and looking for that either. No one opens LinkedIn and says, I hope I see a great ad today. That doesn't happen. So the question isn't whether or not they're looking for you. The question is, can you get enough of their attention for long enough to make them aware of the problem you solve? And on that measure, Meta wins by a mile. Now, here's where I know some of you are going to push back, especially if you're selling into that mid-market or enterprise accounts. You're thinking we need account-based marketing. We need ABM. We need to target specific companies with specific titles, only the decision makers. That's the whole point of LinkedIn. That's why it exists in terms of advertising. And 5 years ago, I totally would have agreed with you. LinkedIn was the only platform that you could do that. We could target by company name, job title, seniority level. And if you wanted to do ABM or ABM plus ads, LinkedIn was really your only option. That is just not true anymore. Today, there are tons of good third-party audience tools and platforms like Primer, for example, that let you build the same kind of targeting list that you'd build on LinkedIn. Company name, title, seniority, revenue bands, tech stack, intent signals, all that stuff that you would like is available, and it's not locked on any one platform. So you can take that same ABM list and push it as a custom audience into Meta. You can run it on Google. You can run it on YouTube with these kinds of tools that were built specifically to decouple audience targeting from any single ad platform. And you can bring that data with you. You can even retarget the same people across all the platforms. So this is how I think about it. If you've got a strong offer that works across a broader mid-market audience, then you can let Meta's algorithm do the heavy lifting for you. Your creative will actually target the right people, and I'll explain how in a minute. But as you go up in company size into enterprise level accounts, that's when those third-party tools like Primer that help you build custom audiences really shine. So when a CEO or a partner at a consulting firm tells me, hey, we need LinkedIn for ABM, what I hear is we haven't realized yet that ABM has been decoupled from LinkedIn, and that the targeting isn't the platform's job anymore. Third-party tools can do that. And when you look at the cost of the attention, Meta beats LinkedIn. So let me put some more numbers behind this because that's where it actually hurts. In our experience working with B2B clients, for every dollar that you spend on Meta, you would need to spend $4 to $6 on LinkedIn to get a comparable result. And sometimes it's more. And the other problem is that LinkedIn's barrier to entry to have a good campaign is really high. Basically, you have to run way more dollars per day in order to get LinkedIn to perform. And while the targeting options on LinkedIn sound precise, often it underdelivers because the audience pool is small and competitive. Now, most of our clients are not Fortune 500 companies with unlimited budgets. We work with SaaS founders, consulting firm partners, agency owners that are doing something like 2, 5, 15 million in revenue, and they have a fixed marketing budget for the quarter. When we show them what they can expect for the same budget on Meta versus LinkedIn, the math speaks for itself. So if Meta doesn't have LinkedIn's job title targeting, how does it actually work? Well, this is the most important thing I'm going to say in this video for B2B. Write it down if you're at your desk. Your ad creative and your ad copy does the targeting. And this isn't just theory. Meta literally rebuilt their whole ad delivery platform. They rolled out what's called the Andromeda update. The old way that Meta worked was this audience level target. You'd pick demographics and lookalikes and so forth. But Andromeda looks at your creative, the actual content of your ad. It transcribes the video. It looks at the landing pages, and then it knows about the intent signals and behavior patterns, and that's of your audience. And that's how it sets up the targeting. That's how it decides who to serve the ads to. So because of that, if you can make a broadly interesting mid-market offer, this really removes a lot of those needs for targeting. And this is exactly where the demand trigger framework comes in. This is how we think about it at RPG. So for every B2B company, whether you're selling software, consulting, or services, you solve a specific set of problems. And those problems don't exist in isolation. There may be 5, 6, 7, or 8 triggering events that happen in your ideal buyer's world before they start looking for a solution. Maybe they just lost a key account. Maybe they're scaling their current tool. Maybe they've hired a new VP that's looking to make a mark. Maybe their board has asked why certain issues are cropping up. Whatever it may be, if you speak to those specific moments in those buyers' journey in your creative, Meta's Andromeda system will find the right people who are at that point in the buyer's journey. And that's why in a lot of cases, you don't need to tell Meta, hey, show this to CTOs at companies with 50 to 200 employees. You write creative that's really interesting to those people. And we call this demand trigger mapping. It's something we do with every client. We sit down, we map out their buyer's journey from, I don't even know I have a problem until I'm ready to buy this solution. And we make sure that we create content and advertising across all of these demand triggers. That gives you dozens of angles and ways to find your ideal buyers. And that's modern targeting. It's not a drop-down menu in LinkedIn. Now, let me walk you through a little bit of the campaign structure from a high level that we actually use for our clients, because this is where a lot of people get it wrong. When we talk about generating leads for a B2B company, we usually run 2 campaigns simultaneously. The first one is a top-of-mind awareness campaign. This is what most people skip entirely. They go straight to lead generation. But if you run top-of-mind awareness campaigns, if you run especially video ads that are very targeted to these demand triggers that we talked about, this is more data that feeds into Meta's algorithms of who is the right person to send your ads to. So these are very niche. They are not viral videos. They're very specific only for your ICP at that moment in time. And we want the rest of the world to scroll right past it. We want the things that are only interesting to that ICP, to that prospect at that time. And that specificity actually helps Meta's targeting, because when a narrow audience engages with your content, Meta learns exactly who your buyer is. And the more niche your content is, the better Meta gets at figuring out who are the right people that watched it, who should we send ads to. So the goal is simple. We want to take a perfect stranger from, I don't know who you are, to, hey, that's actually interesting. I think I have that problem. And then that's when you would serve them a lead generation type of ad. And that brings us to the second campaign. This is the one everyone wants to run, which is lead generation campaigns. We like to advertise specific offers to pull people into your world and to get them to book a call with your sales team. You might be thinking, this sounds great. It would be fantastic to start pulling in and creating our own audience of potential buyers, but I don't have time for that. I don't have a video team. And I hear you. And here's the thing, you do not need a production studio to do this. You don't even necessarily need an agency. There's 3 content styles that work extremely well in B2B. Number 1 is just Loom videos. The CEO or product manager can record a 3 to 5 minute Loom that walks through a problem that your buyers face. That's one of these demand triggers. So you can screen share, you can draw on the whiteboard, you could share a Loom of your product or your framework walking through how to solve that problem. And that brings us to number 2, you could just do a product demo. And number 3, which is really easy, have somebody just record you having a conversation. It can be as simple as put an iPhone on the desk and have an interview with the CEO or founder and ask them questions about these specific moments. And that's all it takes to start building this content. So if we pair all of this with specific demand triggers, you can run them as ads, you can see what resonates. And when you do that, you don't need to be posting multiple times a day because you're going to get feedback very quickly using paid media. And to bring this full circle back to ABM, as you go up market, if you are wanting specific messages to go mostly to enterprise, that's where you pair in a tool like a custom audience from a third-party data source. And that way you're showing deeply relevant problem-specific content to the exact accounts and decision makers that you want to reach. And you're doing it where they spend hours a day instead of 51 minutes a month at a fraction of the cost. So that isn't giving up on ABM, it's just an evolution. Look, I'm not here to say that LinkedIn has no value. If you're doing organic content on LinkedIn and it's working for you, keep doing it. And if you're spending real money on LinkedIn ads and your pipeline feels unpredictable, hey, there is a better way. So if you wish managing your customer acquisition was easier, if you wish the cash flow was easier and you're tired of spending like $15 to $30 a click on LinkedIn and wondering if it's going to turn into a meeting, then it's time to take a serious look at Meta. And if you want to grow faster, if you've been relying like mostly on relationship-based sales, you feel like you're relying too heavily on referrals and warm intro, then you're reaching a ceiling, and this is how you break through it. You need to reach out to strangers and build relationships with them. Get them into your world, get them to talk to you. And paid media is a great way to kickstart that process and scale it. You might feel like your AEs or BDRs are spending all day on prospecting. They're sending emails, but they're not doing that many calls. Maybe they're busy on LinkedIn outreach and they're not really fully utilized. This is another sign that it's time to set up your inbound in the right way, where you've got pre-qualified people set up to talk to your BDMs. So they're not spending all day hunting. And that's why we build these systems for B2B companies, SaaS companies, consulting firms, digital service agencies. So if you'd like to see what this kind of approach could look like for your business, get in touch. I'd love to help you scale this year.